Right, let's jump straight into this explainer and kick off our detective's journey to decode the magnificent patterns of life on Earth. We're going to analyze the incredible systems scientists use to literally make sense of the natural world, moving from simple, everyday observations all the way to complex, competency-based biological reasoning. To help us categorize all this incoming information, here is our roadmap: biodiversity and early systems, evolution of biological classification, classifying the plant kingdom, analyzing the animal kingdom, taxonomy, naming and conservation, and finally, master biological reasoning. Section 1. Biodiversity and early systems. So how exactly do scientists make sense of millions of living species? Well, it all starts with understanding biodiversity. And look, this isn't just some academic buzzword. It's the immense, mind-boggling variety of living organisms on Earth and the incredibly complex interconnections between their forms, functions, and habitats. Without a logical system of classification, tracking millions of species would be like trying to find one specific book in a library where all the volumes have just been dumped on the floor in a massive, chaotic pile. And this brilliantly illustrates why India is just so special. Our country is incredibly unique because it contains parts of major global biodiversity hotspots. We're talking about the Western Ghats, the Himalayas, Indo-Burma, and Sundaland. These regions are literally overflowing with life, but they're also suffering significant habitat loss, which makes our understanding and protection of them more absolutely crucial than ever before. Take our endemic species, for example, creatures like the Nilgiri tar or the beautiful Neelakurinji flowers. Endemic just means they are restricted to these particular regions and found nowhere else on Earth naturally. It's fascinating because ancient Indian knowledge systems actually recognized these deep ecological connections ages ago. The Sangam Tinai tradition, for instance, used a highly sophisticated landscape classification system that helped protect sacred groves and preserve locally diverse habitats centuries before modern ecological theory was even a thing. Section 2. Evolution of biological classification. Noticed how classification evolved from simple habitat grouping into multi-criteria analysis. Back in 300 BC, Aristotle started by just grouping animals by where they lived. Then, by the 18th century, we moved to a basic two-kingdom system of plants and animals. But as our microscopic and genetic tools improved, and pioneering research from places like Birbal Sahani's Paleobotany Institute really expanded our understanding of ancient and modern flora, our logic had to level up. Classification shifted to multi-criteria analysis based on cell type, nutrition, internal structure, and even DNA. This led to R.H. Whitaker's massive 1969 milestone, and eventually Carl Woese's DNA-based three-domain system in 1977. The crucial takeaway here is Whitaker's system, where organisms are grouped into 5 distinct kingdoms: Monera, Protista, Fungi, Plantae, and Animalia. Monera contains the unicellular prokaryotes. Those are organisms without a membrane-bound nucleus. And here's a really cool connection. These very prokaryotic bacteria are absolutely critical to the modern biogas innovations pioneered by Indian scientist Ram Baksh Singh. His work literally turned organic waste into renewable energy using these tiny organisms. Section 3. Classifying the plant kingdom. This perfectly scaffolds the evolutionary leap of kingdom Plantae, stepping from simple, water-dependent organisms all the way to incredibly complex flowering plants. We start with Thallophyta, which are simple algae with an undifferentiated thallus. Then we step onto land with Bryophyta, often called the amphibians of the plant kingdom. They've got root-like rhizoids but still desperately need moisture. Next up is Pterophyta, the very first to develop true vascular tissue to transport water. Then we finally reach the seed-bearing plants, gymnosperms and angiosperms. By analyzing the differences here, we can clearly see how advanced seed enclosure gives angiosperms a massive survival advantage. Gymnosperms, like your classic pine trees, have naked seeds exposed on cones, and they don't need water for fertilization. But angiosperms, they took it a step further. They evolved to have their seeds completely enclosed within fruits, producing flowers. This highlights a highly efficient strategy for reproduction and seed dispersal through pollinators. Now, we simply cannot talk about plant classification without shouting out the Hortus Malabaricus. Compiled way back in the 17th century with the vital expertise of Indian herbalist Iti Achudan, this groundbreaking scientific text documented hundreds of plant species and their medicinal uses. This beautiful, ancient collaboration just goes to show how traditional folk taxonomy and modern science can seamlessly work together to identify valuable species. Section 4. Analyzing the animal kingdom. The fundamental split in the animal kingdom is all based on the notochord, which is a flexible, rod-shaped supporting structure. Animals without one, those are invertebrates. If we trace these invertebrates by their increasing organizational complexity, it starts to make sense. Porifera, like sponges, are just cellulin with numerous pores. Cnidia, like jellyfish, step things up to the tissue level with tentacles. Platyhelminthes are your flat, bilateral worms with organ-level organization, and Nematoda are cylindrical roundworms boasting a full-blown organ system. Evaluating these adaptations reveals exactly how structural changes directly enhance survival. Think about Annelida, like earthworms, which show a segmented body that allows for fantastic flexibility. Then compare that to Arthropoda, which includes insects and crabs. They developed a hard exoskeleton and jointed appendages. This rigid outer covering reduces water loss and supports some incredibly powerful muscles. From the transitional protochordates, which actually have a notochord at some stage in their life, we finally reach the true vertebrates. These animals possess a true internal backbone and skeleton, and this internal framework is a game changer. It allows for incredibly complex, environment-specific adaptations and behaviors. Fish developed fins and gills for aquatic life. Birds evolved feathers and hollow bones for flight. Mammals developed memory glands to nourish their young. And animals in extreme climates evolved thick fur and fat storage just to survive the cold. Section 5. Taxonomy, Naming, and Conservation. Classification is strictly hierarchical. Picture a massive pyramid, starting really broad at the kingdom level and moving all the way down through phylum, class, order, family, genus, and finally arriving at species. As we move down this ladder, the organisms share more and more highly specific genetic and structural features. Now, the ultimate solution to the massive communication problem of naming all these species is binomial nomenclature. Introduced by Carolus Linnaeus, it is a universal standard with very strict rules. The genus is always capitalized, the species is always lowercase, and the whole name must be italicized when printed or underlined when handwritten. This brilliantly ensures scientists globally are studying the exact same organism, no matter what language they speak. And this brings us to a real-world evaluation of why getting the name and classification right actually saves lives. Consider the endangered Songhai deer. It's endemic to Manipur, specifically navigating the unique floating grasslands known as fumdis in Loktak Lake. Protecting the Songhai deer is absolutely impossible without protecting its highly specific habitat. If the fumdis degenerate, the deer goes extinct. It proves, without a shadow of a doubt, that proper taxonomy, understanding ecological roles, and conservation are inseparably linked. Section 6. Master Biological Reasoning. To truly master complex plant taxonomy, intricate animal phyla, and those strict rules of binomial nomenclature, simple rote memorization just isn't enough anymore. You need to apply these concepts in active reasoning, using higher-order thinking skills, or HOTS. So I'll leave you with this final challenge. Are you ready to really test your skills? Head over to ednudge.in to experience their unique 5-step nudge system. Dive into their CBSC-aligned question banks and competency-based scenarios, take the challenge, and see if you can decode the magnificent patterns of life yourself. After all, if millions of species can find their perfect place in the web of life, shouldn't we understand our place within it too?